Welcome to Psychic Holistic Spotlight. I'm your host, Josie Way, and tonight co-hosting with me is Bill Hannon, Ken Demers, and our guest, as I promised you, is Jody Herman, that she was going to be coming back with more information on paranormal investigations. And we've had some questions here about where do you go when you want some help? You know, how do you contact people to get yourself some help? Whether there's something going on in your home, or you know, some people even questioned it. You know, if you think there might be an attachment, where do you go to get help?
The best thing to do is just find a local paranormal team. You know, I'm here in Rhode Island, but I'm actually from the Cape, and there are teams up there. Find somebody, contact them. You know, Facebook, there's a lot of different paranormal groups on there. Find somebody in your area that seems reputable, that's not going to charge you a fee for doing it. And just get somebody in there to help you with it.
Yeah, because let's talk a little bit more about, walk us through a day at an investigation.
Okay.
We've talked about some of the equipment that's useful. Let's walk through one investigation.
Okay. A lot of times the investigation, it doesn't start just that day. There's a lot of work leading up to it. A client would contact you, they're having an issue, they want you to come in. The first thing that I would do is either myself or somebody, a member of the team, would go and actually sit down with the client and find out what's happening. What type of things are they experiencing? Get a little bit of background about the property itself, the family that's living there, who the members are, the ages, medical conditions, things like that. That's the initial client interview. Then they would do research on the property itself, if we could find anything. You know, had it been native land? Had there been a different building there? Who built the house? Who owned it before you? Were there any deaths in the actual house? Things like that. You want to do as much research and get as much information before you actually go in. Being in New England, there's a lot of native grounds and a lot of Native American kind of spiritual activity. And that's one of the things that we look for going into it.
They don't like the grounds disturbed if they're burial grounds, for instance?
That's correct. And even not just burial grounds, grounds where they live.
Where they live.
Where they graze.
They don't hang around graveyards per se. They would rather spend time in a house or where their village was, or something more so than a graveyard. And that would be right up to modern times, I would think.
That's
yes?
correct.
Yeah.
Although there are Native American graveyards where there are Native American spirits there, kind of looking over there and protecting them. They are very protective of their property. But one of the reasons why I look to see if there's any Native American
Connection.
history or connection with the properties, because we do things a little differently. If there is a Native American connection, I'm going to use sweetgrass instead of sage. I'm going to call in, you know, my doorkeeper, my Native American guide versus my main spirit guide. I'll bring tobacco and corn and pennies to an investigation to use to protect the properties. Copper pennies, you can bury them at the bases of trees to protect.
And this does what?
It's an offering to the native spirits.
Because they valued copper, or those?
I'm not sure why, but it works, so I use it.
That works.
Corn and tobacco work as well, too.
Oh, they understand that, I guess, yeah. Cameras.
Yes.
Pictures. This is something that people out in the audience can just, this is a digital, I guess it's a digital.
It's a Kodak EasyShare digital camera.
And it's, I don't know, $150 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So that if somebody wanted to try it, they can pick up a camera and point it and shoot.
That's correct.
And the probability is that when they're shooting it at something, there's nothing there. And then when they look at the development later is when they would see something.
That's usually how it happens. I say that, I mean, I look in the LCD screen after I shoot a picture and I can't really see a lot, but when I'm looking at on a 17-inch laptop screen, I can see much more there.
Oh,
There is a
okay.
theory, though, that people, when they take photographs of orbs, they're not originally in the picture, but then when they're developed or they're looked at later, the orbs are there.
Well, from my understanding is that because of the digital format, that it actually captures more of the light that's actually being shown,
Yes.
because it's more sensitive and able to capture that type of light. While, yes, they were on film before, but not as prominent because of you're talking about the medium of the paper and the chemicals used to process it and all that. And that right there is more like a direct plug-in into
Yes.
what's actually going on.
I've heard that, and it's something about the sensor in the digital camera that makes it more sensitive to
And
picking those
I
things
think what's
up.
also very important is, I mean, we've had other people on the show talking about issues like this, and
The orbs and
the orbs is, and that's actually expressing the intent. Please share yourself with us. Please be here. We're going to take a picture, and we'd just like to have you here
Well,
with us.
what also helps, if the person holding the camera is mediumistic. I find that to be very true.
Well, because you get a feeling of where something is,
No,
so you know where
no,
to shoot.
no, just the
Oh.
energy of the person. If you have somebody else in your troop, and you go into a house and you each have cameras, you would point at the same spot. And
Okay,
the
I
other
see what
person
you
would
mean,
point
yeah.
into the same spot. You might get something before they would.
Now that I've never heard that, but now that you said it, I think that's probably true. Because I have gone out with other
I'm
people
talking by
and
my
taken
own
you would,
pictures.
it would be receptivity that, to it, an openness to it.
Either that or it has to do with the frequency of my body, her body versus Joe Schmo's body, that it's vibrating at a higher rate, making the film more receptive. What I find really interesting, same subject but different, if somebody takes a picture, a Korean photography, and I take a picture of their picture, the colors around their heart are just intensely vibrant in the pictures that I take of their,
No, I'd never heard of that.
oh yeah.
Trying that.
So you take a picture of an actual aura photograph?
No, so yeah, you go into a psychic fair and somebody's got a camera set up,
Yeah.
and they got the camera there. They have their picture done, and they're holding the hands and the magnetic field, and then they have their little photograph, and some of them are neat. So I've taken pictures of their neat photographs, and then when I do, you look at the two of them together, and the electronic one of their picture, the hot areas and some of the orbs around them are much more intense.
I'm going to have to try that.
Yeah.
I've never heard that before, so I'm going to go home and find my photographs and try
I play
that.
a lot. But for the last 3 or 4 years, I was working for the banks, working on foreclosed houses, and I got to take pictures, tons of pictures in every house. And I've been in 400 houses. I've got like 6 houses where I've got people, more ghosty, more ectoplasm-y type pictures of in the houses, and some of them are 2 or 3 pictures in the same house.
Wow.
So it's like they were following me around. But, so are they out there? Yeah. I know people that the guy's wife had died, and they took a picture of him, and his wife's face was on his T-shirt. I mean, real, just like it was printed on there,
Wow.
But it wasn't.
but it wasn't. So is this abnormal? No, I believe it's very common. But
Can we continue with going through?
Oh, the investigation?
Yes.
ta-da. Oh, I thought you meant, okay.
Okay, so we do the research on the property. You actually schedule the investigation. Before we go in, we kind of have a floor plan of what we're going to do as far as the tech setup, what's going to kind of go where, and you never really know until you get in there. But we have an idea going in. A lot of the paranormal teams, they like to investigate late at night. I prefer to start mid-afternoon and work into the evening.
Do you feel it makes a difference?
No.
Okay, I can
I
accept
don't.
that.
My personal experience, there's nothing more going on between 2 and 4 a.m. than there is between 8 and 9 p.m. You know, there's this theory about the bewitching hour, the veil is thinner, that's when everything happens. When you have a paranormal team in your house at 3 a.m., that normal stuff's not happening. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen at any time, not in that witching hour kind of time.
Okay, I can
I mean, I had a lot of
accept
people
that,
on my team that didn't necessarily agree with that. They wanted to be there at 3 a.m.
More
and
dramatic?
we'd sit there at 3 a.m. It's a theory people have, the witching hour. You know, the veil is
Just
thinner.
they think it's more dramatic or more this or more that.
The people that are having the issues too in the home, they're woken up between 2 and 4 a.m. usually. I mean, that just seems to be the time frame. But
Could
they're
th-
not in
could
bed
that have
sleeping when we're there investigating.
Could that have something to do with their REM state of their dream state?
Very
So
well
that
could.
they're more open to whatever is trying to come through?
Yeah.
Because they're
Probably.
off the,
Yeah, and it could be things coming in their dreams too that are waking them up.
that's what I meant, yeah.
Yeah. As far as activity, I haven't noticed anything in that time frame. You know, if we want to set up a camera while someone's doing their normal routine in bed asleep, that I could do that. But as far as having a paranormal team in
Might
there at
be
that
erratic.
time,
Well,
well, that's not what we're looking for.
no.
You know, so basically the team gets there, sets up all the equipment. We'll have a set go dark time where the lights get off. We always go in and do baseline using the K2, and there's a Mel meter, which reads the EMF, pretty much the same, but it's actually a digital readout that gives you a better reading. And what you do is go around and baseline the house to know where the EMF is going to spike. I mean, we all have electrical wires, Wi-Fi, you know, cell transmissions, microwaves.
Natural places where it's going to
Yes.
show up.
This is a phantom light. You're changing the subject on her.
Again.
What this does is it's a full
We got to get you
spectrum
before we run
light.
out of time.
It's a what, please?
It's a full spectrum light. It'll basically light up light spectrums that you wouldn't normally see in a normal video camera.
I see.
So you have like normal night vision. This just uses
Oh,
different
it's like
light
a flash?
spectrums.
You're using it like a flash in a
It's like a
floodlight.
flash it's like a floodlight. You don't actually see the light with your naked eyes though, but the video cameras see the light.
Oh, that's
Okay.
interesting.
Never heard of it. So that's,
A lot of the actual cameras that they use, they're LED cameras, they have these built in. They're either RF or they're full spectrum.
what kind of frequency are we looking at here
Well,
for these things?
this is a full spectrum. I don't know the frequencies. This is more
I mean, is it
colors.
below our vision range or above our vision range?
Believe it's above.
Okay, that makes sense.
I mean, we
Spirit
can't actually
vibrates
see it,
faster
but
than
the
us,
video
so-
will pick up the light.
Yeah, okay, I got it.
When you take a picture of somebody in the auric chair, hold that when you're doing this. That would be interesting,
Okay.
you know,
I never thought to do that.
because if a regular digital camera is intensifying the colors, this is going to allow you to see more colors than even the camera would be seeing.
That's
Okay,
correct.
keep going with your story. I don't want to.
Okay.
I just like the answers, and you know, that's all.
So once you have the tech setup complete, usually there's a command central which has a monitor that has all the video. I like to assign a different person every sweep to the monitor, so it's not one person sitting at the monitor. And usually you go in groups of 2 or 3 to investigate. I'm not all about going in and investigating. You know, I've been there, done that. To me, that's boring. I want them to go in, see what them being the other team members, let them have the experiences, find out what's going on, and see if we can find some evidence for what's going on. Basically, when I go in, it's, middle to the end of the evening to really see what's going on in there, what the other teams have picked up, the other members, what have they picked up that can be used.
Now, when you go in, because of your abilities, do you ask them to come in?
Ask who to come in.
The spirits?
If they're there.
No, I mean,
I don't have to ask them to come in. They're already there. We're there to
I know, but
prove they're there and get rid of them.
do you, they don't necessarily have to be standing in that house when you walk into it. If you extend an invitation to them, does that help? Is what I'm trying to ask.
No, usually they're there or they're not.
But you don't ask them to come in.
No.
Try it.
Well, all right, let me ask you this
I
now.
don't think that's the point of
Right,
doing this.
right.
I'm not there to invite them in. I'm there to get rid of them.
Well,
that's
how
what-
can you get
But
rid
I
of
want
them
some
unless they're there
scientific
to talk
proof
to
that
them?
they're there. Oh, they're there.
Right, I mean, that's what's happening is they're there, just like you've given a few examples of people living there, just in a different time frame or whatever. But let's step into the realm of basically helping them. I mean, we've seen shows about helping them cross and all that stuff, but you mentioned that use of sweetgrass for Native Americans to make the environment more pleasant. What other techniques would you use to help somebody realize that they may not be long there? They probably would be better doing something else in some other frequency.
You mean the ghost in there?
Sure.
How do I explain to them it's time to
exactly,
leave?
Yeah.
There's a lot of different methods, and again, I've learned a lot going through. The best thing that I can do is call in my spirit guides and ask them to help cross, ask them to bring their relatives in.
Right.
Talk to the ghost and tell it, you're stuck here. Your family's waiting for you. You have to find that light and just go.
I find that very interesting. I think that's a great way to approach that.
It is.
I mean, I firmly believe in being able just to talk with your guides, just like you and I are talking right now. I mean, yeah, I don't hear voices, but
But they're there and they're there to help
absolutely.
you.
There's so many times that they've proven that I've been helped, and I always express gratitude. So I think that's a great tool. I mean, how many times have we gotten mired into a situation and we're just plodding along and we never ask for any help?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a great tool to employ.
Because we have free will, we have to ask.
That's right.
They don't intrude on us.
And see, but there are times I've asked them for things, and I tend to not remember to ask for things for myself.
Same here.
So, it's always for healing for somebody, for help for somebody. And, I ask for something for myself, and I'll get this response like, well, okay, let us know exactly what you want. And it's like, okay, let me think about it, and I'll get back to you. So it's an interactive kind of process. But I have found that when I have asked them for help with things, and sometimes it's not always immediate, but if it's important enough to me, it generally is.
All right, well, this brings along another question I have then. What other ways are you able to maybe help others with your mediumship besides ghost hunting?
Definitely passing along messages of love and light
Right.
of people that have crossed over.
Right.
I mean, grief is a debilitating process for some people, and just to give them enough information that they know their loved ones are still around, still involved in their life, and still see what's going on.
Sure.
I think it's just such a state of comfort to some people.
Now, let me ask you a question here. I see people that are so grieving for someone that they've lost, that they're basically holding that person close to them, and they can't move forward because of the intense grief that this is binding that person to them. Instead of letting them go, they're holding it to them, which is detrimental to both parties. Yes, no, your thoughts?
It can be, but when it's time.
Initially, there's some of that goes on for.
I've seen people for 5 years.
No, but I'm saying in the beginning, there's going to be some clinging, on the part of both, people who've lost each other. And But eventually, one of them knows it needs to move on.
I mean, grief is not like a set process. It's different for everybody. For some people, it's a very short period of time. For other people, it's not. And I think to say, you know, well, after a year, somebody should stop grieving and not hold that person close, that doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah.
The only thing that makes grief any better, I believe, is time. But if as a medium I can pass a message along that's going to help that person, and maybe it speeds up the time, maybe it doesn't, but it still helps that person through that grief process.
To know that your loved one is no longer suffering, to know that your loved one has crossed over, to know these things takes a lot of the pain away. There's the loss of, the way I always put it with my son was, I miss the hug, I miss the laugh, you know, the special things about him. But I know he's with me all the time. You know, I haven't really lost him. He just,
A little tougher to communicate to him.
You know what I tell people? When you're feeling that, and feel it with your heart. Think with your heart. When you're remembering somebody in those memories, don't think with your head, think with your heart, because that's when you feel that connection to that person.
Okay, so how do we explain that to people in more detail? Just, I'm sure what you said is pretty clear, but let's make sure that people understand what you're trying to say.
Just when you're going through the grief process and you're thinking about somebody and reminiscing, to feel it with your heart. Think with your heart.
How do you do that?
I'll show you.
Please do.
When I say I missed a hug, he had a special hug. He was 17 and a half, so he didn't like to hug mommy. That's kind of gushy, you know, and he just wasn't, he had a wrestling hug, and he would come from behind, put his arm around like this, and then
Put you in a headlock.
yes, he'd give me a very loving headlock, and that
Personalized.
that was very, but all I have to do is move my hand like that, and I'm immediately out of my head and I'm into my heart. You have to do whatever will take you
So it's
from your
going to
head
be
to your
an
heart.
individual response for every person that is trying to, my thinking is it's going to be hard for people to come out of their head into their heart.
Oh, it
so
is.
They,
Yes.
You can look at a picture and see a smile. That might be from a loved one. That might be just what you need.
okay, that's basically what I was trying to ask. How do you do it? I'm not too much of a heart person.
I don't know. I just, sometimes it's actually for me. I mean, I'll put my hand on my heart. Or I do this, I found myself doing this thing like,
Center
Right.
yourself.
yeah. And just
Okay.
feeling it there.
I know, heart-centered. I walked into the Buddhist monastery up in Smithfield one day, and the thing, it's full of big, giant Buddhas. And as I walked in, I could just feel my heart open up. And I've had it happen 2 or 3 other times, but
But you know that feeling.
yeah, but I'm talking 30, 40 years a couple of times. So I knew what that feeling was. It was just an expansion.
Yeah.
But the average person, how do they tell it? That's what the question.
We're trained to keep everything inside. So to learn to do the reverse and meanwhile walk through life, you're very, very vulnerable when you're doing that. That's why your heart only opens and expands like that when you're in a safe environment for you to be able to do that. So you have to create a safe place, a safe space.
I also think some people probably resonate at a more empathetic level than some people more resonate more at a head level. You know, but I think if you just take a moment, and we've had a couple examples here, if you just take a moment and just take a nice deep breath and just feel it. You can feel your heart center open just by doing that. And then, you know, if you're thinking of somebody, just Mangtal Chia always had people picture a smile on their heart.
No, that's a good method, yeah.
All right, and so the thing is, you can also picture the person being there, the person you miss, a picture of that face of that person, and just take a nice deep breath and relax, and you feel an expansiveness, like you were suggesting when you walked into the Buddhist center. You felt an expansive.
Yeah, it took me by surprise, that's
Yeah.
why, yeah.
Sure.
Well, it's not every day your heart opens.
Well, actually, it happened to me one
Should
night.
be.
Yes.
We did one of our shows down the International Spiritualist Convention from all over the world. And when I was driving home that night, it happened again. Well, that was before the Buddhist one. So, yeah, and it triggers it at its own level, at its own pace, at its own time, I guess is what you want to say. We don't, at least I don't, have a lot of control over when something like that would happen. But
So, what other things can you share with us as far as like personal experiences that you've had that will help people cement what you're sharing with us?
Personal experiences. I had a spiritual opening. God, it was probably about 8 years ago now. Had to do with a visit to the Aniset Wigwam, and being on that property and helping out during a psychic fair. And I was very shy and introverted then, and didn't really know anybody. Just I'll go help out and see what this is all about. And after being there for the weekend, everything was open, and went home. And I said the first night, I'm going to meditate. And closed my eyes, and I did, and I meditated, and all of a sudden I felt somebody, and I opened my eyes, and there was this ghost right there looking at me like he saw me and I saw him, and I started screaming. He freaked out and ran out of the house.
I ain't gonna be I'm not gonna meditate anymore.
I was like, oh my gosh, what did I do? Well, afterwards, somebody explained to me about, the process of meditating and raising your vibration, and apparently this ghost had lived in my house for a while. I had no idea he was there until that process. Spent a lot of time with the covers over my head. La 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 la. You're not there. And he used to stand out the window at night and like, hey, can I come back in? Can I come back in? And I'd start explaining to him, this is my house now. You don't live here anymore.
Right.
And was talking about the property because he used to have 3 houses there, and I sent him over to the landlord's house. And, it's one of those things that
Right.
those experiences that really open you up to this and say, wow.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
There's a gentleman that comes in from New Zealand, and he trained the mediums for 17 churches down there. And the way he would do it would be to have people, half the group of people would stand behind somebody, and you wouldn't know who it is, and you would have to describe the person standing behind you. And once you had the sensitivity to do that, now you ask your grandmother, your grandfather to stand behind you, and then they would gradually move to the side to be aware, so you could just become a little bit more aware of them, so that you didn't have that direct face-to-face, and it was more gradual, and it was of somebody that you love. So the ability to open up is just a little bit time-consuming, but
It is.
everybody
well
is
worth it.
psychic.
Yes. No, it's
Not
Everyone in
as
their own way.
attuned. They're not everybody has such a high frequency as.
But not everybody functions the same way. Some people see, some people hear,
Yeah.
some people know, some people, they might just smell smells, for instance.
Absolutely.
That's
You know.
correct.
That's one of the things I want to ask you about, and I don't know how much time we have, but
1 minute.
1 minute.
all right. Do you find vibration of essential oils such as rose oil or lilac or things like this? Do you find that may help stimulate a better or quicker connection when you?
I don't.
No,
I don't
okay.
use smells. I am sensitive to a lot of perfumes.
Yes.
And I don't have a good sense of smell.
Yes.
So for me, that does not work.
That's fine. I was just curious.
Crystals,
Yes.
gemstones, that works. For
So
me.
that's, again, that's just a vibration of something else. So that's what I was wondering, is it was something that you use to step up your vibration, and you use gemstones.
So if
Very
we
good.
make you a
Thank
little
you.
crystal room, we're going to be able to have you become a Zen master.
I'll do the best I can, but
that
I
would be
use
worth- that
crystals
would be
to raise
fun.
my energy. And I've used
Yeah.
them in investigations before, too, to raise the energy.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're towards the end again of another show, and I wanted to say thank you for coming, being our guest, and thank you for our guests on the other side of the screen for being here and making it so that giving us a purpose to come here, so that we can tell you all these wonderful things and bring all these wonderful guests to you.
Let us know if you're watching, and if you got any questions or suggestions, desires.
And if you need to contact
Jody?
Jody, she's at
Cape Cod Ghost Girl at gmail.com.
Cape Cod Ghost
Say it
Girl.
again.
Cape Cod Ghost Girl at gmail.com.
if
Excellent.
you have any questions.
Any questions, concerns, stories?
Excellent. Well, that's good.
We love stories.
Thank you.
Well, Jody,
Thank you.
thank you very much for being and sharing with us and giving us some insight as to what you've experienced over the years.
Where do you see yourself going?